seeing the historic district in the evening by foot, there's a sense of eeriness to it, right? I mean, Roswell is a very beautiful community, but getting down into that historic district, I mean, particularly for me, Founder Cemetery, goodness gracious. I mean, you sense something there. It's up there.
You really do, and you have a wide cross section of people in there, all the way from Roswell, King himself, and the Dunwoodies, and Pratt representations, to mill workers themselves, children, babies that are in there. The first person buried in that cemetery is Charles Irving Bullock, the 2-year-old son of Major James Stevens Bullock and his wife Martha. That was the first person interred there. So you have young children, babies, all the way up to longtime residents in that cemetery. Quite a good cross section.
Well, and I think one of the cool things about this tours, you and I were chatting about this earlier. It's not gimmicky. You bring the historical context to it, and there's a lot of great history, particularly in our historic district, and you tie that in with some of these paranormal activities that folks sense and things that have occurred. So walk us through, how you blend those two things together, and how that really kind of builds this tour into something greater than just going to another community where it's just kind of kitschy.
Sure, exactly. We don't dress up in any wonderful garb and carry lanterns. And look, nothing wrong with those types of tours.
Sure.
If that's what you're looking for, they can be a lot of fun, and never would we say anything against what anybody else does. That's wonderful what they do. We take a very serious approach to what we're doing within Roswell and the ghost stories that we're telling over the course of time. And you're right, it's a tremendous blend of history with what is happening.
Welcome back to Roswell Brew Talks, and happy Halloween. We're excited to be here today. My name is Andy Williams. I'm president and CEO of Visit Roswell, the city's official destination marketing organization charged with the promotion of tourism throughout the city. And no better guest to have on today to talk about tourism than the individual we have here, Jonathan Crooks, representing Roswell Ghost Tours. This is going to be such a fun segment here, such a fun episode because of all the different things we're going to get into. Roswell and the variety and the level of history that's here, but we're going to take a little bit of an edgier approach as we talk about Roswell Ghost Tours and what this organization's done for the community, the types of visitation it brings in, but more importantly, some of those spooky stories and things that go on during the ghost tour. So, Jonathan, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Andy, absolutely a pleasure for me to be here. Thanks so much for having us. I've been looking forward to this day for quite some time.
Excellent. Well, we're certainly pleased to have you. And I want to jump into going back to the foundation of Roswell Ghost Tours, just so everybody has kind of that historical context, when the company was founded, kind of what played into it and all that good stuff. So just give us the rundown on the 101 of Roswell Ghost Tours right now.
Sure. It actually goes back a good 25 years now, and it started with a fellow by the name of Jack Richards, who lived up towards Founders Cemetery up Sloane Street. He had retired here from Savannah, where he had started the ghost tours there, retires here to Roswell, and started the ghost tours in Roswell. Back in 2001, a couple named Joe and Diana Avena, with a book that we will be chatting about a little bit here today, Roswell History, Haunts, and Legends, that was written by Diana. They bought the tour in 2001 and owned it till about 5 years ago when David Wood took it over. So we've had 3 iterations within that and a number of tour guides over the course of time. But the product, if you will, or the tours that we provide to our folks continue to evolve over the course of time because, as I like to say to my tour goers, we talk about things that have taken place usually within the last 2 to 3 years. Sometimes 5 can be a little longer depending upon who's leading it. But many times we're talking about, particularly in October, when we're going out 3-4 times a night, sometimes we're talking about what happened last night.
Yeah, sure.
On the tour. It really is right up almost to the minute.
Yeah.
And sometimes becomes the minute when you experience something on the tour.
Well, 100%. Roswell, the founding took place in the late 1830s, right?
Yes.
And then the incorporation officially 1854. So there is a lot of Civil War, pre-Civil War history here. And I know that lends
There
itself
is.
to the actual tour itself. Walk us through, what that kind of footprint of the tour looks like so that we can paint a picture for the visitors who are maybe planning a trip, planning a tour. Maybe it's a local resident that hasn't participated. What can they expect to see as far as the
Sure.
properties, the grounds?
Exactly. There are a number. The tour itself walks about 1.25 miles, maybe slightly more than that. We start at the old original square of Roswell, at what's now the bandstand area.
Right.
And then we head up the street to Bullock Hall, and we talk about the Bullock family and what took place on the property there. We talk a bit about Mimosa and the Dunwoodies. We talk about the Emily Dolvin home, and then come up to the corner and we'll talk about Barrington Hall. If we have time, we actually will go to Barrington. A lot of activity up that way as well. We then traverse the square and we go up Sloane Street, which is one of the old original streets here in town, and stop at a couple of the mill workers' homes, one on the way up to the cemetery called Founder Cemetery,
Right.
the oldest cemetery in Old Roswell.
Where Roswell King is buried. Yeah.
Where Roswell King is buried up there. The Dunwoodies are up there. Reverend Pratt of Roswell Presbyterian Church, his brother, Horace Pratt, also a Presbyterian minister, is up there, along with a number of other residents over the course of time. They buried there from 1840 to 1860. And then we'll come back down the street and stop at what are called the Old Bricks,
Right.
which are the oldest townhomes of their type in America. And they were the supervisors of the Mills homes. And we talk about things there and then come back to the square. So there, generally speaking, are 7 to 8 locations that we'll stop at over that 2.25 to 2.5 hour journey.
Yeah, and I will say, whether you've done the ghost tour, where you've not done it, seeing the historic district in the evening by foot, there's a sense of eeriness to it, right? I mean, Roswell is a very beautiful community, but getting down into that historic district, I mean, particularly for me, Founder Cemetery, goodness gracious, I mean, you sense something there. It's up there.
You really do, and you have a wide cross-section of people in there, all the way from Roswell King himself and the Dunwoodies and Pratt representations to mill workers themselves, children,
Right, a
babies
lot.
that are in there. The first person buried in that cemetery is Charles Irving Bullock, the 2-year-old son of Major James Stevens Bullock and his wife, Martha. That was the first person interred there. So you have young children, babies, all the way up to longtime residents in that cemetery. Quite a good cross section.
Well, and I think one of the cool things about this tours, you and I were chatting about this earlier, it's not gimmicky.
No.
You bring the historical context to it,
Yes.
and there's a lot of great history,
There is.
particularly in our historic district, and you tie that in with some of these paranormal activities that folks sense and things that have occurred. So walk us through, how you blend those two things together, and how that really kind of builds this tour into something greater than just going to another community where it's just kind of kitschy.
Sure, exactly. We don't dress up in any wonderful garb and
Right.
carry lanterns. And look, nothing wrong with those types of tours.
Sure.
If that's what you're looking for, they can be a lot of fun, and never would we say anything against what anybody else does. That's wonderful what they do. We take a very serious approach to what we're doing within Roswell and the ghost stories that we're telling over the course of time. And you're right, it's a tremendous blend of history with what is happening. When you understand who the families are, who the people are, it gives you a better sense of what's going on and why it's going on. That makes it wonderful, and we may get into some things a little bit outside of Roswell that tie and make that point very, very well. But Roswell itself has such a rich history from the founding in 1838, basically with Roswell King coming up to start the mills. And the people that came with him, in essence, that he drew to Roswell, of the Bullocks, the Dunwoodies, the Pratts, the Hands, the Smiths, all play into what we talk about. And one of the things, I appreciate you bringing this up, because A lot of folks will go through and many times will say, I so enjoyed the paranormal stories, but I learned so much about my city.
Right.
I did not know. And they walk away with a great sense of what we're doing from the paranormal perspective, also with the historical perspective and why understanding the history is also important. And what we try to do on this tour, on mine particularly, I will say, I'm going to try to make you, if you will, into many paranormal investigators.
Sure.
Because we talk about what paranormal is through its different iterations. Everyone is familiar with clairvoyance or clairvoyancy, where you will see a spirit or partial spirit. And why do you know that? That's the one Hollywood loves.
Yeah, sure.
It's the most dramatic. That's what you're going to see in movies, what you're going to see in television shows. What we'll also tell folk is that although it absolutely does exist and you can experience it here, it's the least likely one. Why? Because it takes so much energy for them to manifest in that way. So what do we talk about? We'll talk about the other types as well, so you have an understanding. Clairaudience, clairsentience, those types. Well, what is clairaudience? Has to do with sound, which would be what? Could be music, footsteps, doors knocking, windows closing. You hear a crash in the next room. You run in to see what the cat knocked over this time, and then realize, I don't have a cat.
That's right.
You know, wait a minute. But I just heard this. What is going on? Clairsentience, where it's touch, taste, smell, how animals will react on occasion, dogs and so forth.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting things that would happen at, say, on Sloane Street there in the old bricks.
Yeah.
Stories that we can discuss if you'd like to go down those paths. What happens on our tour? It is possible to be tugged on, and it's a little different for the guys than it is for the girls.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
It really is. Well, the guys will get tugged on their sleeve and many times on their pant leg.
Okay.
Why? Well, we tend, as guys, generally speaking, to wear things that are maybe not quite as form-fitting as the ladies will wear. Okay? So that will play into it. With the women, particularly those with longer hair, which ties into some things we were chatting about before we even started. But they'll get tugged on their hair. And those types of things will happen, at, say, the Mill Kitchen, at the cemetery, at different places like that, where they'll get tugged on their hair. And what they say it feels like very often is my little sister or my friend when we were growing up and played whatever we were playing at the time, and playing with each other's hair and fixing each other's hair. You'll get that kind of thing on the tour.
So you mentioned the Mill Kitchen.
Yes.
Former, funeral home.
Right.
Cemetery, obviously death. Is that the theme here with the tugging of the hair?
It can be fun. At the Mill Kitchen,
Really?
Yeah, at the Mill Kitchen, when you talk to some of the longtime waitresses there, upstairs is where they used to get the bodies ready for memorial services. Where the bar area is today is where they held the services.
I did not realize that.
Yep.
Okay.
So really interesting. But upstairs, if someone should go up there by themselves at nighttime, it's not uncommon that they will get their hair tugged and then they hear a young girl giggling.
No kidding.
So it can be fun.
Whew, I don't know how I would respond to that.
It can actually be fun. You'll hear this giggle as your hair is being tugged.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily mean just because you're having an interaction that it's scary. Let me tell you a story from Barrington Hall.
Okay.
That is somewhat akin, but a little different approach. Catherine Simpson, who was a longtime resident, she was the last direct descendant of the King family to own and live at Barrington Hall. And she passed away in 2003. Catherine would let people come through her home for $5 a piece. It was a way for her to get some additional income. She was a school teacher. She had her dollars from that after she had retired, but to get other income, $5 a piece. When people would come into her home, she would say, should you run into or see the young girl upstairs, do not engage her in conversation.
Really?
People would go upstairs and they'd run into this young 8, 9-year-old girl.
Okay.
She told them not to talk to her. Why? There was no 8 to 9-year-old girl living
Yeah.
at Barrington Hall
Okay.
when she was there. If you go on the Roswell Ghost Tour website, go to the photographs, you will see photos of her looking out the window.
Do we have any idea who she is?
We don't.
Wow.
We don't know who she is. But apparently she was a resident at some time in Barrington's history. And that leads to other stories of other people that will be seen over the course of time, particularly with children. You go to Bullock Hall. One of the entities often seen there is a young boy of about 10 years of age who will be seen running along the fence line between the house and what they call the service yard, what we generally in Roswell call the slave quarters, so that you know where I'm talking about.
Yep.
There's a fence line that runs there. And he'll be seen running along the fence line and then playing in the trees between the fence and the house itself. Always described the same way. White puff sleeve shirt, kind of ruffles down the front, and what would be called knickers.
Yep, sure.
Today we call them shorts.
Yeah.
But they were called knickers or short pants back in those days. Well, we do know historically that there were children who did pass away on Bullock Hall grounds. Passing of scarlet fever, which was the, if you will, virus of the day back then. 1840s, 1850s, 1860s. Scarlet fever was just a horrible disease that took many children and many adults as well.
Yeah, sure.
So we do know that there were children who passed away on site due to scarlet fever.
So you make an interesting point, too, because I think a lot of the listeners, the viewers, are going to want to ask, we know what ghosts are.
Yep.
We've grown up understanding what ghosts are via television, documentaries, all these different things, unsolved mysteries. Or what exactly is the presence of a ghost? Is it something that can't pass through to the other side? Are they trapped?
Yeah, you're running down great lines here in terms of how it's been described over the course of time. The way it's been explained to us from mediums is that there is a bit of a difference between a ghost and a spirit.
Okay.
Now, so let's define that. A ghost is someone who has passed on, who has not gone through the light.
Got it. Okay.
And they may be afraid to go through the light because they're afraid of judgment.
Okay.
And the lives that they led. And so, in essence, are they trapped, which is a term that you used and is used very often. Are they trapped between worlds? Pretty good definition of that.
Okay.
They're trapped because they're afraid to go through.
Yeah.
A spirit, on the other hand, is one that is defined as someone who has passed through but comes back, generally very benevolently, to check on their grandson, their daughter. How is she doing? Is everybody okay?
Okay.
So very benevolently, because a very common story that you'll get over the course of time will be a child comes downstairs and says, Grandma was in my room last night. Well, honey, Grandma passed away 5 years ago. I know, but she was in my room. Well, how do you know? I smelled her perfume.
Wow.
Which would be clairsentience, right?
Yeah, sure. Not visual,
I smelled her perfume, and it was the kind of perfume that only Grandma
right.
would wear.
Right.
That's kind of the way that it would play out.
So between
and they
the two,
knew that she was there.
Yeah. Well,
they knew she was there.
It's interesting, too. And we're talking about playfulness a lot.
Yes.
But let's talk about nefarious spirits, because I think there is the difference, right? So what makes one versus the other?
There truly are. And the way that will be described to you is that the characteristics and tendencies that we had within this world and this life carry through to the next.
Yeah.
So let's say you have somebody that is not what you would call the most wonderful person
Not an
you've
up and up
ever
citizen,
met.
right? Okay.
They can bring some rather difficult and, quite frankly, frightening types of things. So I want to highlight one. We had a building in town that we called Creepy House.
Yep. Know exactly what you're talking
So
about.
let me talk a little bit about Creepy House. Creepy House is no longer there. It's basically behind what used to be a steakhouse, Italian restaurant, right next to what today is Spiced Right.
Right.
Wonderful, wonderful place. So right next to it, that building is no longer occupied, but still there. And it is now white. It used to be red to
Yes.
help people orient. Oh, that's what he's talking about.
Right.
So it's right next to Spice Right. It's now white. Behind that building is where Creepy House used to sit up until about 8 years ago when it burned. And we don't know how it started, but it burned down. Creepy House was known to have been the home of the hangman in town.
Okay.
That is the story connected with Creepy House. And what took place with him in that house has to deal with younger girls. And I really don't want to get too graphic, but folks listening to this and perhaps watching, put two and two together.
Yeah.
You're going to come up with four, and unfortunately, you're going to be right
Yeah.
as to what took place. People going down there who are what we call sensitive. In other words, they're open to and have experienced things over the course of time. They don't necessarily have to be a medium,
Right.
but they are sensitive to what takes place. Walk down there with a very ominous feeling. As a matter of fact, Diana Avena didn't like walking down by the house. She tended to stay back away from it because of the feelings that she got when she went down there. One night on one of my tours, we had gone down, I can't remember how many folks happened to have been on that tour, may have been 20, 25 people. So there were a fair number of folk. It wasn't just a couple of us. This woman walks down, and all of a sudden, she starts kind of grabbing at her back. And it was an August night. It was rather hot that evening. And she's grabbing at her back, and she's kind of spinning around. And she said, is there a bee down my back? Is there a bee down my back? Because she's trying to kind of slap at it. But she said it felt very hot and like something stung me down my back. We lifted the back of her shirt up, and it looked like 3 fingers and a thumb, minus the three fingers in essence, minus the pinky and the thumb, had scratched vertically down her back from basically the shoulder back down across her back. And it literally was welting up as we looked at it. It was
fresh.
It had just happened. It became a very deep red because of the scratch down the back. And she said, I thought I'd been stung. I thought I'd been stung.
Yeah.
Well, dear, you weren't stung. You were scratched. And it's interesting because I've seen other photos similar to that off of other places over the course of time. So it is something that does, in fact, happen to people.
Absolutely.
People have had rather difficult dreams the night after visiting Creepy House specifically, or our tour, if they encountered something a little bit nefarious, if you will.
Well, I'll tell you this. This has been what I will call a very good glimpse into what attendees can experience.
Sure.
We could talk about this all day long.
Yes, we
I
could.
think we could, because I'm sitting here, I'm a little freaked out, which is awesome because it's pure daylight right now, and I'm just, things are running through my head. And it's a reminder that I need to get back on that tour and do it again too, because it really is a good time. To your point, it's very historic. I mean, the historical context is amazing too, but there's a sense of eeriness around, and everybody needs to experience Roswell, particularly the historic district, by night as well. I would fully, agree with that. Jonathan, also let us know, where can we get more information? RoswellGhostTours.com?
RoswellGhostTours.com is it, absolutely. You'll connect up there with David Wood, who's the owner. He'll be in touch with you and set up. You can do private tours. We have a lot of private tours. People get together from their community. Businesses will come out
Yeah.
as a fun outing. We're going to go on the Roswell Ghost Tour. Sometimes we'll do what's called a spirit crawl.
Yeah, sure.
Where we actually work with some of the establishments like Mill Kitchen and
Yeah.
the like, where you start with a beverage,
Mm-hmm.
and then you do half the tour, do another beverage,
Yep.
and then end at another place, usually Spice Right, with another beverage. So as David likes to say, it's the one night we can absolutely guarantee you will see spirits.
There you go. Well, Jonathan, it's a pleasure to have you on. We appreciate your time. Thanks for everything
pleasure.
you do for the company as well. And as we like to say, it's a great way to do business, a great day to do business in Roswell.
Yes, it is.
Cheers.
Cheers indeed.